Conversation Project doesn't do context well in the fact of quick updates on breaking news and developing news. We have to give you some sort of pause point, some sort of starting point, some sort of finality to really give you something to bite into for that context. That's what we have to do for what we do here. That's how these quick internet things sort of work. So if you're Ali Vitale, who came into work this morning and started her way too early shift at 4 in the morning, as always, she opened up the day to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries starting a speech on the floor to delay the vote for the one big beautiful bill. And she ended her extended day. She filled in for Chris Jansen today, so she was on a late day waiting for Hakeem Jeffries to wrap it up 8 hours and 44 minutes later. Now, Jeffries, after a long night with the rest of the folks in the House of Representatives voting on a procedure to go forward on the final votes, got up this morning on the 3rd of July to use the House's legal rule called the Magic Minute Privilege. Now, what was illegal in this case was a filibuster to keep the vote away, but the Magic Minute, essentially the same thing. It did not allow the Speaker or the control of the House, the controls of the body, to go away to someone else and lose control. It just meant the guy speaking could speak until he stopped talking. It's not a real minute. It's just sort of a last minute sort of thing to kind of go on and on about. Kevin McCarthy used this to a shocking positive effect for his term once, and now he's not the leader on the board for that one. It's now Jeffries with 8 hours and 44 minutes. Now, I'm not sure why Jeffries and Cory Booker in the Senate have going back and forth on these, tit for tat things, but Cory Booker now has a long speech. Hakeem Jeffries now has a long speech. I guess they're both welcome. Now, the whole point of the delay was to push back the actual final vote for the one big beautiful bill, which was going to pass. There were some questions and marks about, if someone would go back and forth. But the more time they basically had to go into it, essentially the more time they had to actually convince Republicans to stick along with this one. So not so much political theater, not so much just throwing your hands up and reading phone books and things like that. Jeffrey spent 8 hours talking about the bill, but he spent most of the time reading letters from constituents, people who were cancer patients, also small business owners and families who relied on Medicaid. And he highlighted the bill's cuts to Medicaid and SNAP and forecasted that it could strip nearly 12 million people of insurance by 2034, according to the Congressional Budget Office. We'll bring them up again in a moment. But the numbers by the independent body saying this is what may happen say bad things will happen. Yet, Donald Trump and the Republicans are dutifully working to get it done. And it's basically done. In the marathon speech, Jeffries framed that this strategic public education effort to show people what was going to happen. He basically kept saying it was going to happen, but he portrayed the bill as a reverse Robin Hood, essentially saying it takes from the poor and puts it back into the richest hands, and the most vulnerable Americans would be losing out a lot here. He closed more or less in a preaching fashion for civil action, urging people to call the representatives and prepared for something called Project 26, because if Project 25 was what we're getting now and what was some way to sort of reshape the government, Project 26 would be a way to vote out those Republicans who did this to them in the next upcoming midterm election. That is all that's all about. Oh yeah, it was delayed, but despite that, it happened. It's done. This is Mike Johnson using his magic minute time to not use 8 hours worth of time, but to kind of, thank the folks around and complain that while the Democrats said a bunch of words, what we're going to do, this bill is going to be good for everyone, which most people disbelieve, but we have to go with those words. Republicans pressed forward and the House actually passed a bill 218-214. Only 2 GOP defections total, and those were the ones that we're expecting. Mike Johnson and President Trump actually worked very hard to mount intense pressure overnight to make sure people who were not going to go this way went his way. Critics actually argue that Jeffries' speech merely rallied his base, that being the Republicans, but did not alter the outcome altogether. And Democrats as well. More people got kind of riled up and happy with it, but they didn't have the votes, and Johnson made sure the votes went his way, so it happened. Now, the broader implications come to this guy right here. The showdown on in Congress, on the House specifically here, the Senate a few days back, shows the deep divide in partisan leadership, partisan viewership that part of the branch that's supposed to actually keep this guy in order, yeah, there's some issues with that. Supporters see that Jefferson's move as a moral standing spotlight for vulnerable Americans. Jefferson, the robot editor. Jeffries' move was as a moral spotlight, but that's all it was. He spoke for a while. He talked for a bit. He made some noise. He's going to have some clips on YouTube and on TikTok for the next couple of days. But in actuality, the bill passed. We'll have to see how bad the bill will be and if they can actually blame Republicans for this one when midterms come around. But as it looks like it's going to be, I have joked about Donald Trump signing this in the middle of a parade on tomorrow. Maybe that's the case. But the 4th of July deadline is here. The bill passed on July the 3rd, and so we will get the one big, beautiful bill in place now. Of course, it takes a little while for the things to actually gin themselves up, but get ready for one big, beautiful bill to invade your lives for the next coming years.